You can't be here. Those 4 words should have been my first clue that Patricia Moreland had absolutely no idea what she was talking about. But standing there in 3-year-old algae with a deed in my waterproof bag and a surveyor's transit set up on the North Shore, I just smiled. Because I'd waited 6 months for this exact moment. 6 months of dusty property records, title searches, sitting through the most boring county auction of my life just to watch a forgotten piece of paradise get sold for back taxes. And now here she was, stepping out of her pristine white golf cart like she owned the place. Wearing a sun visor that probably cost more than my entire cleanup budget, clutching a binder thick enough to stop a bullet. The name tag pinned to her polo shirt read Patricia Moreland, HOA President, in gold letters. She didn't offer a handshake. She didn't even pretend to be friendly. She just stood there on the cracked access road with her arms crossed, staring at me like I'd personally insulted her family lineage by daring to exist on what she clearly believed was her property. "This lake is part of the Willowbrook Estates community," she announced, flipping open that ridiculous binder to a page marked with at least 4 different colored tabs. "It's designated as a recreational amenity in our master plan." I pulled my boot out of the muck with a wet squelch and waded toward shore. The smell hit me first. That unmistakable scent of stagnant water and decomposing leaves that comes from years of neglect. This lake hadn't been maintained since the early 2000s, when the original owner died and his kids let the property taxes lapse. The county had seized it, listed it, and forgotten about it. For 2 decades, this 3-acre jewel had sat here turning green while Patricia's HOA expanded around it like a suburban empire, swallowing up every cul-de-sac and retention pond within a mile radius. Except this one. This one slipped through. "That's interesting," I said, wringing out the bottom of my shirt. "Because according to the county clerk, the surveyor's office, and this deed I'm holding, the lake sits exactly 112 yards outside your HOA boundary. Has since 1987. Patricia's face did something remarkable. It went from confident to confused to absolutely furious in about 3 seconds flat. "That's impossible. We've had access to this lake for years." Access, sure. Ownership, not so much. I pulled the laminated survey map from my bag and unfolded it on the hood of my truck. The property lines were crystal clear. Drawn in bold red ink by a licensed surveyor who'd spent an entire afternoon out here with his equipment while Patricia's neighbors watched from their back decks. See this line? That's where Willowbrook ends. See this blue shaded area? That's mine. She didn't even look at the map. This is community property. It's been used by residents for recreation, fishing, even our annual 4th of July kayak parade. You can't just swoop in and claim it. Actually, I can. I did 2 weeks ago at auction. Paid $4,000 in change. I folded the map back up and met her eyes. And before you ask, yes, I checked. No adverse possession claims, no easements, no recreational rights. The previous owner never granted your HOA anything in writing. You've been trespassing for 20 years, Patricia. The silence that followed was delicious. I could hear a lawnmower running somewhere in the distance. The buzz of cicadas in the trees and the faint hum of Patricia's golf cart idling behind her. She opened her mouth twice before actual words came out. We'll see about that. She turned on her heel, climbed back into her golf cart, and drove off without another word. The binder stayed tucked under her arm like a weapon she was saving for later. I watched her disappear around the bend, then looked back at my lake, my beautiful, disgusting swamp of a lake, and grinned. This was going to be so much fun. What I didn't know yet was that Patricia had already scheduled an emergency HOA board meeting for that very evening, and my name was the only item on the agenda. The violation notice had my name spelled wrong. Not just a little wrong, either. They'd written Mr. Jonathan Torrance when my actual name is Jonathan Torres. And honestly, that felt like the perfect metaphor for everything that was about to happen. Because if Patricia Moreland couldn't even be bothered to spell my name correctly on official HOA letterhead, she definitely hadn't bothered to check whether I was actually subject to her authority. The letter sat on my kitchen counter Tuesday morning, next to my coffee mug, demanding I cease all unauthorized construction and trespassing on community recreational property within 72 hours or face legal action. I read it 3 times, each time getting angrier, before I noticed the coffee had gone cold in my hand. I wasn't even in the HOA. My property sat outside their jurisdiction, but apparently facts didn't matter when Patricia decided to weaponize her binder. The phone calls started that afternoon. My contractor texted me around 2 saying a woman in a golf cart had shown up at the lake asking questions about permits and taking photos of his equipment. By 4, I had an email from someone using a burner account with the subject line, "You should be ashamed," and an attached photo of my excavator parked by the water's edge. The photo had been taken from someone's back deck, zoomed in, grainy, but deliberate. Someone was watching. By Wednesday, the whole neighborhood knew my name. Or at least, they knew a version of my story that Patricia had carefully crafted and distributed through her phone tree like a virus. I found out later she'd called an emergency board meeting Monday night, the same day we met at the lake, spent 90 minutes painting me as some kind of greedy developer who was going to destroy their precious community amenity. Never mind that the amenity wasn't theirs. Never mind that I'd bought the property legally at a public auction. Patricia had decided I was the villain, and her board members ate it up like gospel. Thursday morning, I drove to the lake to meet my restoration crew and found "Stop the Greed" spray-painted across the access road in dripping orange letters. The paint was still tacky. Whoever did it had been there within the last few hours, probably waiting until just before dawn when nobody would see them. I stood there staring at it, my boots crunching on the gravel, feeling my jaw clench so hard my teeth hurt. This wasn't about the lake anymore. This was about control. I pulled out my phone and called the non-emergency police line to file a vandalism report. While I waited for the officer to arrive, I walked the perimeter of the property and found fresh tire tracks in the mud, the distinctive tread pattern of a golf cart. Patricia or one of her faithful soldiers had been here, watching, documenting, maybe even painting their little message of suburban resistance. The officer who showed up was young, probably mid-20s, and he took photos of the graffiti with the kind of bored efficiency that told me he'd seen this exact brand of HOA warfare before. "You're not the first person to have trouble with Willowbrook Estates," he said, scribbling notes on his tablet. "They tried to cite someone last year for parking a boat in their own driveway. Outside HOA boundaries, same as you. What happened? Legal fees happened. Guy spent $3,000 defending himself before they dropped it. He handed me a case number on a small card. My advice: get a lawyer now before this gets worse." I took the card, watched him drive away, and looked back at the lake. The morning sun was hitting the water just right, burning off the mist, and I could see the progress we'd already made. The algae treatment was working. The shoreline cleanup had revealed actual sand underneath decades of muck. In another month, this place would be beautiful. But Patricia wasn't going to let me get there quietly. That afternoon, I got another email. This one had 12 photos attached, all taken from different angles around my property, all time-stamped from the last 72 hours. No message, no text, just surveillance photos, delivered like a warning. Someone was building a case, and I had a feeling I knew exactly who. The next morning, I received a certified letter requiring my appearance at a special HOA meeting to address community concerns. The meeting was scheduled for Monday evening at 7 p.m. in the Willowbrook Clubhouse. I wasn't invited. I was summoned. "Ma'am, the lake is not HOA property." 7 words. That's all it took for Patricia Moreland's face to transform from confident smirk to the exact shade of a fire hydrant. We were standing in the cramped, fluorescent-lit county clerk's office on a Thursday morning, surrounded by metal filing cabinets and the overwhelming smell of old paper and burnt coffee. And those 7 words hung in the air like a verdict from on high. Patricia had demanded this meeting, called it an official investigation into my ownership claim, and marched in here with 3 board members trailing behind her like disciples. A lawyer who looked like he'd rather be literally anywhere else, and a manila folder stuffed with what I could only describe as her greatest hits. Collection of Facebook screenshots and conspiracy theories. I'd brought facts. Real, boring, legally binding facts. My deed, recorded and stamped. The surveyor's report with measurements accurate to the inch. 20 years of tax records showing the lake had been privately owned since before. Willowbrook Estates was even a sketch on a developer's napkin. And now the county clerk, a middle-aged woman named Sharon, with reading glasses on a beaded chain and exactly 0 patience for HOA drama, had just delivered the knockout blow. Patricia gripped the edge of Sharon's desk. "That's impossible. We've maintained that lake for years. We've held events there. Our residents have fishing rights." Sharon didn't even blink. "What your residents have been doing is trespassing. The previous owner didn't enforce it, but that doesn't transfer ownership to your HOA. Mr. Torres bought the property legally at auction. It's his, but our master plan clearly states." Patricia started flipping through her folder. Pages flying everywhere, desperation creeping into her voice. "Your master plan doesn't supersede property law," Sharon interrupted. Her tone, the verbal equivalent of a door slamming shut. "I've pulled the plat maps going back to 1987. The lake parcel has never been part of your HOA. Not in the original filing, not in any amendment, not ever. One of the board members, a balding guy in a polo shirt whose name tag read Steve, treasurer, cleared his throat nervously. Are you absolutely certain? Because we've invested community funds in lake maintenance. Then you've been maintaining someone else's property, Sharon said flatly. She turned her monitor around so we could all see the screen, where a digital property map showed my lake parcel highlighted in blue. Sitting like an island, just outside the red boundary line of Willowbrook Estates. See that gap? Okay, that's approximately 112 yards. Might as well be a mile in legal terms. Patricia's lawyer, a tired-looking man in a suit that had seen better days, leaned forward and studied the screen. I watched his shoulders sag in real time. Ms. Moreland, I think we need to discuss this outside. No. Patricia's voice went up an octave. This is wrong. Someone made a mistake. The records are wrong. The records are not wrong, Sharon said, and there was steel in her voice now. I've been the county clerk for 16 years. I know how to read a property map. Then someone changed them. Someone falsified these documents to help him. Patricia jabbed a finger in my direction, and I had to fight to keep my expression neutral. This whole thing is corrupt. You're all in on it. The room went dead silent. Even Steve, the treasurer, took a small step away from Patricia. Her lawyer closed his eyes like he was praying for patience. Sharon removed her glasses slowly, deliberately, and fixed Patricia with a stare that could have frozen lava. Ma'am, are you accusing me of falsifying county records? Patricia's mouth opened and closed. I'm saying that someone needs to investigate this properly. Someone impartial. Someone who isn't clearly biased toward developers who want to steal community resources. I paid $4,000 at a public auction, I said quietly. The same auction that was advertised in the newspaper and posted online for 30 days. You could have bought it yourself. We shouldn't have had to. It was already ours. It was never yours, Sharon said, standing up now. And if you continue to harass Mr. Torres or interfere with his legal property rights, you'll be hearing from the county attorney's office. Are we clear? Patricia grabbed her folder, scattering more papers across Sharon's desk. This isn't over. I'm filing a complaint with the county commissioner. I'm contacting our state representative. You'll all regret this. She turned and stormed toward the door, her board members scrambling to follow. Steve, the treasurer, mumbled an apology as he passed. The lawyer lingered behind, watching Patricia disappear into the hallway, then turned to me with an expression somewhere between embarrassment and relief. Mr. Torres, he said quietly, reaching into his jacket pocket. I'm going to strongly suggest that Ms. Moreland retain different counsel for any future action. Here's my card, in case you need a witness to what just happened here. I took the card. His name was David Chen, and his firm was 2 towns over. You think she'll keep pushing? I think Patricia Moreland doesn't know how to lose. He glanced toward the door. Watch your back. He left, and I stood there in the sudden quiet of the clerk's office, holding a business card and a certified copy of my deed. Sharon sat back down, shaking her head. 20 years, she muttered. I've never seen someone so convinced they were right when they were so completely wrong. I thanked her and walked out into the bright parking lot, where I could see Patricia standing by her Mercedes, gesturing wildly while her board members nodded along. She saw me watching and pointed, saying something I couldn't hear but could definitely imagine. The lake was mine. Legally, officially, completely mine. But something told me the real war was just beginning.